Welcome to another episode of Second Take with Ashwin Berry. This week, we're doing a second take on our second takes, focusing on opposition politics in Africa. It has been a very interesting year with regards to elections and also the relationship opposition parties have with the ruling parties headed to elections across the continent. And we're going to highlight that. But very importantly, Namibia goes to elections on the 27th of November. And we're also going to be bringing in some Namspectives from our election watch with regards to the upcoming Namibian election. Well, what else can I say? It's time for Second Take. Now, as we know, there is a lot of issues in Mozambique. There have been pot and pans protests, people banging their pots and pans in protest to the election results. The protests have been ongoing. At the start of it all, people thought it wasn't going to last, but it seems like the Mozambicans are not letting this go. Frelimo, the ruling party since 1975, is being accused of election fraud and some unscrupulous collaborations with Zimbabwe. And we covered the beginning of all of this, and this is how it went. Mozambique's longtime power holders Frelimo are once again claiming the electoral crown in all 11 provinces according to provisional results because, well, who needs surprises when you've had a 48-year head start? The ruling party's golden boy Daniel Chapo was expected to waltz into the presidency on October 9. Predictably, the opposition parties are screaming fraud, like it's their job. One of them even called for a strike, as if the people of Mozambique haven't been striking with their votes for years, just, without much success. Venancio Modlane, who is the independent candidate and apparently Mozambique's next martyr, claimed he was actually in the lead, according to his own version of math. He heroically vowed to grind the nation to a halt on October 21 with a nationwide strike. Bold move. Lutero Simango of the ever-hopeful Democratic Movement of Mozambique, a party known for punching well above its weight, has plans to take the election results to court. Because when you've been denied the presidency by a juggernaut like Frelimo, a courtroom drama feels, like the next best thing. Meanwhile, Frelimo, ever the masters of silence, didn't comment, probably because they were too busy oiling the gears of power they've held since 1975. Chapo, in an act of political restraint, urged the nation to stay calm while waiting for official results, which, spoiler alert, probably won't differ too much from the unofficial result. Election observers, bless their hearts, were quick to point out that the election didn't exactly scream democratic. The International Republican Institute diplomatically noted several issues: vote buying, intimidation, inflated voter rolls in Frelimo strongholds, and zero transparency. So basically, business as usual in Mozambique. Full results drop October 24, but let's be real. We all know how this ends. Now, a country no one really talks about in Namibia, but we should certainly be talking about more, is Malawi. And my, oh my, the politics is very active that side. Let's look at how one Gladys was doing with regards to the opposition and her position in her party. Meet Gladys Ganda, former director of elections for Malawi's main opposition party, DPP. Gladys Ganda made the unforgivable mistake of praising President Lazarus Chakwera. I mean, how dare she? Imagine a member of the opposition, no less, daring to commend the sitting president for what she sees as development, and worse, implying that leadership is about results rather than tribal loyalty or party slogans. The horror must have rippled through the DPP ranks like an earthquake, as Ganda's words of satisfaction with Chakwera's leadership sent party loyalists into panic mode, implying that a president is delivering results regardless of region. Blasphemy of the highest order. It didn't take long for the fallout to reach Ganda's office. After all, such praise is practically treason in the DPP playbook. The party that to some Malawans is known more for its expertise in opposing for opposition's sake rather than actual governance could not tolerate this shocking display of common sense. Within days, the wheels of political punishment were were set in motion, and out came the carefully orchestrated reassignment. Naturally, the press release was delicately framed. This wasn't a demotion. No. Ganda was simply being reassigned to a loftier title, presidential advisor. As we know, there isn't a better way to silence someone than to put them in a role that sounds important but carries as much influence as an intern's coffee order. So let's not pretend this isn't exactly what it looks like. Ganda's reassignment is as transparent as it is cynical. She praised the wrong person in the wrong party, and now she'll spend her time advising from a safe distance. Her once prominent role in electoral strategy swept under the rug. In DPP fashion, loyalty is valued over logic, and anyone who steps out of line gets a shiny new title and a quieter seat at the table. Focusing on opposition politics, Bobi Wine has been under the thumb of Yoweri Museveni of Uganda for quite a while now. And this story is a general reflection of Yoweri Museveni's relationship with opposition politics in his country. Yoweri Museveni, the man who has mastered the art of eternal incumbency. Now, he's found a new conspiracy to pin on his political rivals, alleging that they inflated their votes by 1 million. Yes, the opposition, already smeared, beaten, and jailed, somehow managed to magically inflate their numbers under the nose of Museveni's regime. Never mind that Museveni's own electoral commission gave him 59% of the vote. The timing of his latest claim, conveniently placed at a Thanksgiving service for a late general, feels as smooth as a well-oiled propaganda machine. If one didn't know better, they'd think Museveni has confused state events with personal rallies. And isn't it rich for Museveni, who sat on his throne for nearly 4 decades, to accuse others of electoral fraud? The man has treated Uganda like his personal game of Monopoly, amending the constitution when the rules no longer suit him. The same electoral system he keeps in his back pocket is now suddenly a victim of negligence. But of course, the lapses of his electoral agents conveniently resulted in Bobi Wine, who has the audacity to challenge the autocrat, gaining votes. But what's more intriguing is Museveni's newfound reliance on evidence, which naturally he hasn't shown to anyone. Surely it must be hiding in the same vault where the evidence of every other opposition crime or lack thereof remains stashed. Meanwhile, the police continued their side job as Museveni's personal security detail, ensuring Bobi Wine and his supporters are reminded of their place. The police, that noble institution, have certainly made a name for themselves. What's a peaceful protest without a few heads cracked, a few bones broken? And when Bobi Wine finds himself once again in the hospital, perhaps he should be thankful he wasn't hit by anything deadlier this time around. A little tear gas in the leg, the regime's way of saying, "We're still watching you, Bobby boy." The real masterstroke of Museveni's regime is convincing the world that he's the victim of an opposition coup while holding the gun, metaphorically, and in Bobi Wine's case, quite literally. It's a tale as old as the regime itself. Cry foul, keep the throne, and call it democracy. Wink. Now, in Botswana, it seems like opposition politics triumphed after decades and decades of the BDP's rule. Some people are saying that there's a fire starting across Africa. Others say it doesn't really mean anything. Second Take covered the story. After almost 60 years of governing Botswana with a consistency that only diamonds could envy, the Botswana Democratic Party, the true elder of Southern African politics, has shockingly lost its grip on the nation's parliament. President Mokgweetsi Masisi, possibly still pinching himself in disbelief, admitted, "We got it wrong big time in the eyes of the people." His concession came with the grim realization that there's no way that I can pretend that we are going to form a government. For decades, the BDP had been as much a fixture of Botswana as its diamond mines, smoothly operating in the halls of power like clockwork. Masisi, who sought a second term with the party, now finds himself preparing to step aside. Yes, you read that right. An African head of state voluntarily stepping aside after an election defeat. Somewhere out there, democracy is beaming with pride. The newcomer to the spotlight, Duma Boko of the Umbrella for Democratic Change, had this to say: "Change is here." A post on Facebook read capitalized and exclamatory as modest street celebrations broke out in parts of Gaborone. It's almost surreal. A long-shot candidate from a party formed in 2012 is now president-elect after years of chipping away at the unyielding rock of Botswana's political landscape. But even Masisi showed rare class for the region, reportedly calling Boko to concede defeat. Have a listen.
Your Excellency.
Morning, Gideon. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah, I've arrived. I'm about to start the press conference. I want to congratulate you and wish you the best. I'm going to concede to having lost the election through a democratic process that we've always subscribed to. And thank Botswana for the very peaceful manner in which they conducted this election. Thank all parties that participated, including my own and members. And I will let them know that from tomorrow, or at your convenience, if you want to do it on Monday, you can do it. I'll start the process of handover. And you can count on me to always be there to provide whatever information and whatever guidance you might want. I will serve this republic loyally. We will retreat to being a loyal opposition and work with you for the betterment of our country.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Good race.
Thank you.
Good race.
Thank you.
Best of luck. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.
So, as BDP frantically Googles how to be an opposition party, one thing is clear: diamonds last forever. Power does not. After the break, we talk to Rorisang Mohojwe directly from Botswana. All right, it seems we do have a president-elect, Duma Boko. Tell us a little more about him.
President-elect Duma Gideon Boko, he's a lawyer, he's an attorney by profession. He's been ruling the Umbrella for Democratic Change for years now, and he has finally unseated the ruling party. In 2019, he lost. He was also standing for a parliamentary seat, but he lost as a member of parliament, and his entire party lost simply because people felt like he was not looking out for the best interests of the people, which is also one of the factors that Masisi lost, because a lot of general members of the public feel like Masisi got rich through the government coffers, and he was out for his own personal interests and not that of the nation. And therefore, in 2019, Duma Boko, people felt like he was too arrogant. He did not care for the interests of the people, but rather for himself and also the party that he was leading. But in 2024, as they campaigned, he was a little bit more humble, and he said, "I have heard you and I have outgrown whatever character that I was in, and now I am just a humble servant, and I'm here for the nation." And this is one of the Botswana believes so much in humility and a principle that we call both, which is about togetherness and just having that humility within you. So really, I think that is one of the main factors that they thought that maybe Duma Boko could actually look out for the interests of the general public at large. And because, he has promised to bring change, he has promised to rule better. So Botswana, I say, let us give this man an opportunity for him. We will look at him and his manifesto in the next 5 years. If he doesn't do what he promised.
Now, after the break, we're going to swing over to Namspective. And this Namspective is special because we're bringing in an interview I had on Election Watch with Enzo Amwele, as we were talking about the youth in Namibia and, the voting logics around 27 November. Joining me today is Enzo Amwele, the head of the MyZone Youth brand, as we talk about Namibian elections and particularly the youth voice in this year's election on the 27th of November as hashtag Namibia Decides 2024. How are you, Enzo?
Oh, good. How are you,
Fantastic. You guys have been busy all year. MyZone, I understand you're going to be doing some coverage of the election itself.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
You're going to have youth all over the country, making sure that everybody stays informed.
Yeah, of course, 100%. We have been posting clips of youth leaders, young people, learners, teachers from across the country. Encouraging young voters to go out there and go cast their votes.
Yes, very essential, Enzo. Yes. Let's start off a little broad, just talking about youth in Africa as far as voting and the population. Now, the youth generation in Africa is booming, with 1/3 of the population being between 15 and 35, which means the median age is 19, making it the youngest in the world. Now, if we look at some of the elections that happened in the region this year, we look at South Africa, 42% of voters were the youth. They would have hoped for a much larger turnout over there. Now, in Botswana, the youth certainly turned out in their numbers, pretty much deposing of the ruling party BDP. And in Botswana, a huge factor, as is in a lot of these countries, is unemployment. At 38%, the youth unemployment rate in Botswana far surpasses the national unemployment rate. And unemployed secondary school graduates comprise of 51.5% of the male population and 48.8% of the female population that is in Botswana. So that was a huge push for the youth with regards to unemployment in Botswana. Now, in Namibia, of the 1.4 million registered voters in Namibia, just over 900,000, we're talking 900,316, were born after 1982, which is making them younger than 42, which allows them to be considered a part of the youth. This was announced by the Electoral Commission of Namibia. Now, if young people turn out in their numbers to vote, it certainly means that the ballot will more likely reflect their wishes more than anyone else. It's an important election for Namibia. And a little later, we'll get into the statistics of the age groups that have voted in Namibia and the percentage precisely of the folks who will be voting in Namibia on the 27th of November. You talk to the youth. You spend a lot of time with the youth. Is there excitement surrounding this election?
Yes, definitely there is excitement. I think I can reflect back to when we spoke to a learner from Northern Secondary School in Rundu. And then we asked, are you going to vote? This boy took out his registration card and says, I'm a registered voter and I'm going to cast my vote. And he's a young boy in grade 12, and I was like, the excitement is there.
Yes.
The youth, they want to see that change. They want to make changes in the whole policy framework within the country.
Yes. All right, let's get into some perspectives on the youth vote. Enzo, let's get right into it.
Yes.
With, how significant is the youth vote in Namibia in the election, considering that the young are the majority?
Well, Ashwin, I think the upcoming election is very important for Namibia. It's a very important election, as you just mentioned that the youth makes up, majority of these people. And then you see that the demographic shift is very, very serious, because now you see that young people are in position now to really, really change the whole system,
the landscape,
the whole landscape. So you can see that this shift could reshape how it could reshape so many things. It could reshape political party policies, it could reshape government policies, it could reshape development. It could, the focus is shifting. Unlike 30 years ago, where I would say politicians would maybe prioritize traditional policies and stuff like that. And now young people are at the forefront. They are. I'm sure they're going to go out in numbers, and it's gonna shape the whole future for Namibia.
I like that. I mean, it's always good to see, when the people who are going to be there in the future making the decisions for it. Now, what factors do you think are most influencing the Namibian youth vote? If we look at Botswana, even if we look at Mozambique, who just completed the election, South Africa, unemployment is huge. Is that also the case here?
Yes, I was. When I saw the question, I was like, yeah, it's definitely unemployment. One of the most important factors that are influencing young people to vote. And the high employment rate in Namibia is quite high. And just a few weeks ago, we saw a bit of drama with the Namibia Statistics Agency. They didn't want to reveal,
the unemployment statistics. And I did think that was important. Do you think that's going to be, something that's going to bother the youth, particularly as they head to elections, to not have those statistics? Do you think that the youth feel like perhaps it's a ploy?
Yeah,
Just their feeling, not employee. It just feels like that kind of statistic could be quite harmful to certain parties and others. Do you think the youth are getting that perception? That,
yeah, I think they are getting that perception. And come on, young people have been demanding for jobs over the years. We have seen thousands of graduates that are without jobs in the country. They are demanding for jobs, and of course, because of unemployment, they are forced to now vote, count their numbers, and bring about change that they need, and which is they are demanding for jobs.
Yes, they are. They're absolutely, and there's no moving away from it. Really.
Yes. Besides that, one of the factors could also be education.
Yes.
Access to quality education, free
100%.
education.
Yes.
These are some of the things that are at the forefront of young people.
Yes.
Some of the fights that they can remember in Parliament. Young parliamentarians who are fighting to get rid of institution fees, for example, to reduce the fee for institutions. Every now and then you see in the beginning of the year, students are unable to afford registration fees. It's always fights with university students.
I mean, so many letters are sent out.
So many letters are being sent out for the university to reduce the prices.
Yes.
So this is what we say: access to education. And then you find that in other places of the country, there is no access to these kinds of education.
Yes.
So the young people, they want access to education.
Understandably.
And of course, they will vie to make change.
To make change, and they're going to want jobs after that education. You mentioned some young parliamentarians. Do you think that the advent of the young Namibian parliamentarian is also spurring the youth on to vote? We remember in the last election, we saw LPM with some young parliamentarians, PDM in this one, certainly pushing young parliamentarians to the forefront. Do you, SWAPO as well, without a doubt, Patience Masua, Emma Theophilus, these are all young, brilliant minds. Do you feel like seeing these figures involved in politics is inspiring the youth to want to vote more because they see themselves in the halls of power?
Yes. I do think these young parliamentarians, they play a huge role in encouraging youth to vote, because you see that, oh, look at this young person. They're
relatable.
Yeah, it's relatable. They are fighting for change. And one thing is they are on the platforms where the young people are.
Yes.
So they know what the young people want, what 100%. The young people want. So it's brilliant, and they are.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I remember having some reservations about Minister of ICT Emma Theophilus talking on Twitter. Having some back and forth. But then I realized that is part of her job and part of her role as a young youth parliamentarian is to be accountable. Yes. And we're more likely to ask you to be accountable on Twitter.
of course.
Yes.
I remember the Minister of ICT. She even once mentioned that she even receives DMs from young people, and she responds. And as a young person, I think she ought to do so.
That is essential.
Yes,
without
and it's within her duty,
scope,
scope as well.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And then one other thing is corruption. Over the week, over the past few weeks, we have been seeing how ACC is really trying to come out to make a name for themselves. You look at the biggest corruption scandals in Namibia that happened, like Fishrot, for example. Fishrot is one of those corruption scandals that angered the youth.
Yes.
And they are still very angry about it.
Yes.
And they want to put an end to it. Say, no more corruption, no more fish rot.
Yes.
They don't want another rot.
Especially during fish rot, a lot of the youth started seeing that some of their peers who were propelled forward had been propelled for these nefarious purposes.
Yes.
And perhaps the Namibian youth wants to do right by them. Yes. Okay, so what we said unemployment, we said education. Do you feel, we'll get into the manifestos, but just your general read of the room, do you feel that political parties are adjusting their policies now to try and cater to the youth, especially when it comes to unemployment?
Some of them are really trying their best to adjust their policies to adhere to the youth. Some of them they still speak to the older generation.
Yes.
So it's a 50-50 situation. So
now you and I, we're in Windhoek, right? We're in the city, but we're also not the majority of youth. How far away is that? How far is that gap? How much distance is on that gap really between the city youth and the rural youth? And we're talking to access to information and just understanding the political landscape in Namibia. What's your perception?
From my own perception, honestly, the gap is huge.
It's huge.
I've been around. I've traveled to the north, Rundu.
Yes, you were stationed there.
Exactly. So when we do our media roadshow as well, and you cannot compare how a young person in the north thinks than the young person here in Windhoek, and the access to information is limited in the north. You go to a village, for example. These kids they don't they don't even have a television
Yes.
in today's world. So they don't even know what is happening beyond their village
Yes.
compared to a youth that is here. So the gap is really, really huge. I think the government still needs to push
Yes.
and really take activities and whatever needs to be done to get the youth from other towns really active and to come and fight for those social injustices,
Yes.
for example.
Yes.
So the gap is huge.
The gap is huge, and you know, usually when the gap is huge between rural and city youth, it usually generally means the rural youth who just vote according to what they know and what they've been conditioned to do. So
Definitely.
all right, you're still with Second Take. You know, we try to keep things very easy, very calm, very fun. And how do you do that without a TikTok of the week?
How many years can a president be in office? 4, 4, 4, 7. Hey! What? Keep it pushing, guys. 5, 5, 5, 5. And then Zimbabwe, since when do you have 5 years? You're just like us. Ayo, don't be silly. Uganda, what's your term limit? Forever.
Thank you for watching Second Take. We've come to the end of the show. Our next show has one singular focus: the Namibian election on the 27th of November. Hashtag Namibia Decides 2024. Do not miss this Second Take. I am digging in, and no one will be spared. Good night.